Welcome to this Mendax in 30 webinar. My name is Simon Black and I'm a technology evangelist here at Mendix. And then in the next 30 minutes, I'm going to take you through the Mendix technology and how we can utilize the SAP platform to build applications rapidly using our technology. So first, I want to take you through an introduction into the Mendix and SAP relationship, talk about the Mendix platform and why we differentiate from competitors, and then take you through a demonstration of the SAP technology and how it can be utilized in the Mendix platform. So Q3 last year, SAP and Mendix entered into a strategic global reseller partnership. What this means is SAP can resell and support Mendix technology, and it's known as SAP Cloud Platform Rapid Application Development by Mendix. And what this brings together is two great technologies that enable us to be the only low-code platform that offers an entire application lifecycle, that enables business and IT to collaborate throughout the whole application lifecycle, and that facilitates the citizen and pro developers, every type of developers within the application development space. This particular relationship means that we're the only cloud native and highly scalable application out of the box, and we offer a rich depth integration into the SAP products and services, enabling customers to deploy one click into the SAP Cloud Platform and extend the applications as they need as they grow their application. So the Mendix platform is an entire application platform that allows you to manage your entire application lifecycle. So from the top left here, we enable applications to be developed 10 times faster than traditional development. We do that by using model-driven development instead of coding, and we bring both business and IT together using a low-code or no-code environment, meaning that we can collaborate much closer to the business so that they have an understanding of how the application is being built and being able to build the application first time correct. Once you've built your application, you then want to deploy your application. So for one-click deployment process, we can deploy out to any SAP Cloud Platform, but also onto multi-cloud environments such as AWS and Azure, and also have that full monitoring DevOps capabilities all built into the platform. Finally, once you've deployed your application, you then want to be able to govern your application. You want to be able to view the quality metrics about it. You want to be able to add enterprise-grade security. And this particular application lifecycle is never ending. Once you've developed your first iteration of your application, you should constantly iterate and design and improve your application over time. So this is really where we see us differentiate ourselves from others, is that we have a close collaboration. We have a control mechanism that allows you to develop and collaborate in a controlled manner and do that at speed. So that's about it for the actual introduction in terms of the Mendix and SAP relationship. I now want to take you into a demonstration of what that means and the technology behind it. So first of all, I want to show you the Mendax Dev Portal. This is where we are able to collaborate with people within our organization. We're also able to start to create projects together so that we can have business and IT collaboration when developing our application. In order to start an application, we can click on the green button which says Create App. When we do so, we can select from a number of starter templates and a number of example themes. And one of these particular categories is the SAP apps. Within here, we have a number of applications that have already integration into the SAP products, such as S/4HANA, SuccessFactors, SAP Leonardo, and other integrations as well. Some of these applications use the SAP Fiori branding to enable you to use those Fiori design patterns and accelerate the development of your projects. You can also integrate these particular SAP Fiori apps into your Fiori Launchpad, allowing you to have a single location where you can view and manage each of your applications. When we selected a particular application, we can choose to use this app section, and we can give this particular application a name. When we hit Create App, the application will now authenticate us with the SAP Cloud Platform and will ask us to choose a number of locations where we want to deploy our application and set up an environment so we can deploy it to. We can select a particular region, and we can select a domain, organization, and space. When we hit create, what the application does is our central cloud portal will start to provision everything we need for our application, including any instances that we need for database services, for cloud services, including connectivity services to our SAP systems, and also our application server as well. So now in the SAP Cloud Platform cockpit, we can see the service instances that have been created by the Mendax Cloud Portal, including a Postgres database service, a single sign-on service, and also a connectivity service so that we can connect into our SAP backends. Once we deploy this application, it will provision us a new application and we'll be able to view this in our browser. So here we have the application already set up, and this particular application allows us to search for purchase orders from our S/4HANA application. We can use the search facility here, or we can decide to add a new purchase order. In this purchase order application, we can decide to choose to create a new purchase order for a bike battery or a bike brake. In this case, we're going to select the bike brakes and submit order. So now the order has been submitted, we can see we've got a purchase order number. We can use this particular purchase order to track that purchase order through the process. And we can see here, if we search for that number, it will return us this particular brake part, which we can then start to use and view more information about. Now, when we have a particular purchase order, we want to be able to track that order. We want to be able to see that the transportation of those goods is dealt with in a consistent manner and that those goods are not damaged during the transit. Now, in order to do that, we need to be able to monitor certain information. We need to be able to monitor certain conditions of how it's been transported, such as temperature, humidity, movement. And to do so, a lot of companies are starting to look at and use IoT services. So in this application, we've built into the app a tracking feature. And the tracking feature allows us to connect into IoT services so that we can actually track this package and see whether it's being actually transported in correct manner. So if we add this now to our tracking, we can see we get a link that's generated and a QR code so that we can actually track this transportation of our purchase order. If we click on the link, this will now open up our application, allowing us to view the track and shipment of our goods over time. We can see information about our temperature, light, and humidity, and we can change these at the bottom here to see live IoT information. Finally, at the bottom here, we have a view of our blockchain. So in this scenario, if we are transporting goods over a distance and we notice that through the sensor data, the temperature or light is too high, we can trigger an alert and we can save this into our blockchain. The blockchain will then allow us to see where in the process that particular contract has been broken and by what sensor data. So let's go ahead and start running this application and view some live data coming into our app. We've built into this application a simulator, and the simulator allows us to send data to the IoT services from Leonardo and view that live in this particular dashboard. When we hit start, this will now feed the data live into the IoT service, enable us to see this on our dashboard as well. And when we see this information coming in, we can then start to make certain decisions and we can start to trigger off certain flows based on the data that's coming into the application. So here we can see some live data coming into our dashboard, and we can start to make some changes and some decisions to that particular data. So if we increase the temperature to, let's say, 80 degrees, which breaks our smart contract, we will then start to see alerts coming into our application. These alerts will then notify certain people within our organization that we need to actually inspect the conditions of these purchase orders. So here we can see that we've now had a temperature increase to 70 degrees. And when this happens, it will also add a block into our blockchain. So if we go over to our blockchain service now running on Leonardo and hit refresh, we will now see that block added into our blockchain so that we have a mutable ledger of everything that's gone on during the transportation of our goods. We can see here we have the longitude and latitude of where that occurred, the temperature that occurred and caused this particular block to be created. And we can see that over time, this particular contract has been broken many times. And therefore, we might need to have some penalties due to the transportation. We can also see in the IoT services from Leonardo, the transportation over time and the temperature stored in our database in the Leonardo system. So now all of these connectors and these modules are available in the Mendax App Store, allowing you to easily connect and utilize these new wave of IoT and blockchain services. So let's go ahead and stop that simulator now. And whilst we're doing and working in this application, we might find that we have an idea for a new feature. Now, we might be, as a business user, we might decide that we want to make a change to this application, and we might want to extend this application's capabilities. To do so, we can simply use the edit button on the right-hand side here. The edit button, when pressed, will open up the Mendix web modeler so that we can make changes in the browser to our application. So we now have the page open that we were on before in the Mendix web modeler, and we can decide to view this in both mobile, tablet, and web. The Mendax Web Modeler is a frictionless environment, allowing you to build and deploy applications with a drag and drop interface using a what you see is what you get editor. So we can see the page here with our temperature, light, humidity, and movement. Also our graphs as well are displayed in a view here. So this is actually our development tool, a frictionless way for business users to start building applications without having to know any coding. Let's take you on a journey around the web modeler so you can get an idea of what we can build and how the functionality is added. So on the right hand side here, we have a number of what we call building blocks. And building blocks are pre-designed patterns and libraries, allowing you to accelerate the development of your project. All of these building blocks can be customized for your own organizational theme and design so that you can have one set of experiences for your multiple applications. You can build those building blocks using our development tool, and once you've built those, you can reuse those across multiple applications. We then also have widgets, and widgets are lower level components such as buttons, sliders, star ratings, and a number of widgets will combine to make out a building block. You can download some of these widgets from our App Store so that you can extend the functionality of the Mendax technology. You can extend the platform both on the front end using JavaScript and Java on the back end. On the left-hand side here, we have all of the tools that we need to develop out the app. We have the pages, we have the navigation, we have our domain model for our data structure, and finally our microflows for our logic. I'll come on to those in a bit later, but now we actually want to implement some new functionality. And the functionality that we want to add in is we want to be able to add a new button so that we can actually see the purchase orders within this particular application. So we're going to drag on from the right hand side here a button, and this button is going to be a call microflow button. We can drag it into this section here. We can see that we've got the button here now, which we can configure and add some text and logic to. So I've added a caption on here now. I'm going to change the rendering so I can change for each of the widgets and building blocks certain design properties. And again, these can be set by your UX designers or your design team within your organization so that you can have a consistent look and feel across apps. The next thing we need to do is we need to hook up some logic to this app. And the logic for this particular button is used, and we build that using microflow. A microflow is a step-by-step logic allowing you to build out the logic, whether it be on a button click, a background process, or a web service or a REST service. You can call these at any point within your chosen point. So I've created a new microflow here, and in this microflow we have a parameter of an asset. We have a start and an end event. And on the right hand side here, we have a toolbox of a number of activities and decisions that we can drag onto this workbench to build out our logic. So the first thing we might want to do is we need to retrieve the purchase order ID for this against this asset. We can select the association which we want to retrieve from. And when we do this, we don't need to know anything about SQL statements or coding or so on. We can simply drag and drop and use the associations and data that we need in our app. So we retrieved the purchase order now, but at this point, we might not be able to actually implement the functionality. We don't know how to integrate into S/4HANA, for instance. We might not have any experience with integration into SAP. So we might want to get someone more technical involved. We might want to get someone from our IT team involved who can develop out that connector, integrate it into our application for us, and then make it available for us to develop upon. So to do so, we can add in some notes into this particular flow so that we can actually let them know that we need this particular functionality adding. So I'm going to add in some notes here saying you add integration to S/4HANA so that our more technical user can come into the application and develop that logic for us. So now that we've built that particular button, we want to test it. So let's go up and edit and view this application. If I hit update, what the platform will do is it will take all those changes we've made, deploy them into a sandbox for us to test upon, and then make those available for us in the web browser so that we can view that application. As that's deploying, I just want to take you through the rest of the application platform. On the left-hand side here, we have the navigation, so we can drag and drop and build out our user's navigation. We have our domain model, which allows us to build out our data structure. It's any data that we're going to interact with, whether it be stored in a database of our choice, or whether it be stored in memory when we're retrieving it from a third-party system, such as an SAP system in our backend. So the application is now deployed. We can view that in our browser now. We can go into one of our assets, and we can view the details and changes that we've made. So we can see here now we have our get purchase order option, and at the moment it currently doesn't do anything because we haven't actually implemented any logic to show a page or send a message. So at this point, we need to be able to inform our technical users that we need this change to be implemented. And the way we do that is we have a controlled mechanism to do that. We have a feedback button that's included in every Mendax project. And this feedback button is usually on the right-hand side here, allowing us to submit issues, ideas, and questions that we want to be notified about, and we want our product manager to make a decision upon. So we're going to go ahead and fill in this information. and we're going to ask for a implementation of S/4HANA. We can include screenshots of the page that the user was on at the time so that we can know where they were and what they were doing during this particular testing phase. If we hit submit now, this particular feedback item will be submitted to our Mendax project management portal, which I showed you earlier, where we can manage that feedback item and we can decide to make this into our user story. So I'm going to switch back into the Mendax portal here, and I'm going to drill down on one of the projects that we set up earlier. We have the SAP in 30 Velotics IoT project, and within here we can drill down and we can see team members within our project. So these team members might be business users, end users, and testers, and we can invite them to the project and set up their individual user roles. If we go to the feedback tab here, we can see that feedback item has been submitted now. And as a product owner, we can start to decide what we're going to do with that feedback item. We can view details about the page, the user role, and the rights that they were on at the particular time. We can accept that feedback item, and when we do so, it will then ask us to create a user story from this and identify it as a feature or bug. When we submit this, it will convert that into a user story now for us so that we can start developing on that functionality. On the left-hand side here of this project, we have everything we need for our entire application lifecycle, including collaboration features, development tools for managing our project and having multiple developers working on their same app. We have a deployment section where we can manage out each of our environments and deploy out to multiple cloud environments. And we also have the operate section as well, where we can manage the performance of those deployed functionality, and we can scale those up and down depending on the volume. So to implement this change, I need to switch into our desktop version of our application. The desktop tool is an online, is a development tool on my desktop, which enables me to develop offline and sync the changes that have been made from the web modeler and decide what we're going to develop and extend that particular model. So the same model that we developed upon in the web modeler is available in the desktop modeler. So we don't need to do any handover processes. The models will be kept in sync and we'll be able to develop upon the same application. So if we go to the Stories tab here and hit refresh, we'll now see the new feedback item that we submitted, and we can click the button here, which will take us directly to the page the user is on at the time. We don't have to search around, we can start to implement this new functionality. If we right click on this mic flow, we can now see that we've got the view in the web modeler, in the desktop modeler of our mic flow. Now, we want to integrate this into the S/4HANA system, so we might decide that we want to search on the App Store for that particular component. And our App Store is our component library. It allows us to accelerate development of projects, so we're not building from scratch every time. We can download these components and we can use those in our application. We have a number of connectors into things like SAP services, into AWS connectors for machine learning, and we can download these and use these in our application. Alternatively, if you want to extend the capabilities, you can extend, as I said before, by Java on the back end and also a JavaScript on the front end. But as well as that, we also have an SAP Odata connector, which allows you to take any Odata metadata from SAP or others, and it allows you to convert that into your data structure so that you can very rapidly build out an integration into any Odata service. So let's go ahead and download that new connector, the SAP S/4HANA connector, so that we can view and manage those purchase orders. So now the module has been downloaded into our project. We can see that we've got that in our App Store modules here, and we can start to use that now in the mic flow. So if we switch back to the mic flow, we can start to build out the rest of this logic. The first thing we want to do is drag on a new activity. And as you can see in this activity workbench, we have a far greater, richer set of activities compared to the web modeler, because in the desktop modeler, we might need certain features that we might not necessarily want a business user in the web modeler to use, such as calling out to Java actions, calling out to REST services or SOAP services. We've restricted these so that they can be made available at certain periods and be controlled when those are being used. If we scroll down now, we can see that we've got the SAP S/4HANA connector here, and we can select from our workbench this particular activity. This makes it a native activity within the microflow, allowing us to have a logo and set certain parameters. We don't need to know anything about the logic behind this particular connector. That's already built for us, either by one of our other team members or by the Mendix community. So now we've just passed the purchase order ID to the purchase order service, and we can then decide to go and show that data. So we're going to add one more activity on here, which is a Showpage Activity. And when we do so, we can pass it some data, and we can select to create a new page. We can select now from a number of page templates, and page templates are pre-existing design patterns based on good practices of how your page should be structured and designed. So let's select a form horizontal, click OK. We can go to that page now, and you'll see that it's automatically generated us that page. So because of the data that's in the domain model, it can automatically create that data structure for us on our particular page. So now that we've made those changes, the next things we need to do is we actually need to commit all of those changes back into our central revision repository. So this allows multiple developers to work on different branch lines. It allows them to collaborate and know what exactly has been developed on each particular revision. So if we go ahead and commit that now, we can select the user stories that we've actually been working on and start to give a commit message as well. So we can select the S/4HANA feedback item, and we can hit OK. This will take all those changes now, package those up, and it will commit those into our central SVM repository. Finally, once that's actually committed, we'll then be able to deploy this application into our cloud environment so that we can view those changes in our browser. So now that's available, we can choose from our options not only to run locally, but also deploy one click into any cloud environment of our choice. If we hit OK when we deploy, it will start to provision this now in our cloud server and deploy this application so that we can view it and we can see those changes live in our app. So our application is now deployed into our SAP Cloud Platform. And if we hit View now, it will open up the application in our browser so we can start testing. So let's go ahead and look at our purchase order and use the link that we had earlier so that we can view that new purchase order. We'll open up the asset tracker here. And if we hit the Get Purchase Order option now, it will call the S/4HANA service. It will pass it the ID for our purchase order, return that data, pass it into our Mendax objects so that we can now see that on our browser in our page. So very quickly in the last 30 minutes, I've shown you how you can utilize the Mendax for Mendax and SAP technology, and how you can rapidly build out your applications using S/4HANA, using SAP Leonardo IoT services, blockchain services, all within a single demo. I hope you've enjoyed this particular webinar, and I hope to see you on the next one.